December 31st, 1972, New Year's Eve. Puerto Rico. Roberto Clemente stood at the airport, in front of an airplane, an old DC-7 cargo plane, rusted, worn, overloaded. The pilot approached him, Jerry Hill, 55 years old, 20 years of experience, but his face was worried. "Mr. Clemente, this flight is dangerous. The plane is too old, 1956 model. The weight limit has been exceeded, 4 tons overloaded. The left engine was tested yesterday. It's not working properly. And the weather forecast is bad. A storm is coming." Jerry stopped, then added, "Please, we need to postpone until tomorrow, just 12 hours. Roberto looked at the aid boxes. They were lined up on the runway, 16 tons total. Inside, food, medicine, blankets, water purification systems. For Nicaragua earthquake victims, 10,000 people had died 8 days ago. "Tomorrow is too late," Roberto said quietly. "Those children are hungry today. They're cold today. They're bleeding today. They can't wait for tomorrow." "Mr. Clemente, I understand, but will you celebrate New Year's with your family tonight?" Roberto asked. Jerry nodded. "Yes, after the flight. Those Nicaraguan children want to celebrate New Year's with their families too. But their families are under rubble. I can at least bring them hope." Jerry took a deep breath. "Okay, but I need you to accept responsibility in writing. I accept. All responsibility is mine. 9 p.m. The plane took off from the runway. His family waved. Roberto smiled from the window one last time. 90 seconds later, the engine exploded. The plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean. 5 people died, all of them. Roberto Clemente, 38 years old. His body was never found. But the story doesn't end here, because Roberto wasn't just carrying aid supplies that night. He was carrying a promise he had made 8 days earlier. And that promise, after his death, would become even more powerful. This is the story of a man who risked his life, and how that risk changed sports history, aid systems, and millions of lives. Sometimes the greatest victories are won on journeys from which we never return. Roberto Clemente was born in Puerto Rico in 1934. He was from a poor family. His father worked in sugarcane fields, $4 a day. Roberto had nothing, but he had a baseball bat made from a tree branch and a ball made from paper. He played every day, from morning to evening, before school, after school. He wouldn't stop until it got dark. "This kid is special," a local coach said one day. "He hits the ball fast, runs fast, but most importantly, he's hungry for success." 1955, at age 20, Roberto was drafted into MLB, Pittsburgh Pirates. He wasn't the first Latin American player on a full roster, but he was fighting. In those years, the 1950s, Latino players weren't treated well. There was racism. Hotels wouldn't accept them. Restaurants wouldn't serve them. On the team bus, Roberto had to sit in the back. But Roberto never complained. He just played better than everyone else. 15 years later, 1971, Roberto was a legend. 3,000 hits, only the 11th player in MLB history. 12 Gold Glove awards, Best Defense, 15 All-Star selections, 1971 World Series MVP. He was going to the Hall of Fame. Everyone knew it. But for Roberto, baseball wasn't just a game. It was a platform, a voice for Latino people. "I'm not just Roberto Clemente," he said in an interview. "I'm a representative of every Latino child, every Puerto Rican child, every poor child. They're watching me. I cannot fail. Because if I fail, they lose hope." The 1972 season had ended. Roberto was 38. Retirement was near. But he had a dream. To open Sports City in Puerto Rico, a free sports facility for poor children. Children are playing in the streets. It's not safe. It's not educational. I'm going to give them a place, not just for sports, but for life. December 22nd, 1972, Saturday morning. Roberto was eating breakfast. He turned on the TV, and his life changed. Breaking news from Central America. On the TV screen, collapsed buildings, crying people, rubble, death. Managua, Nicaragua's capital, has been destroyed by a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. Early estimates, 10,000 dead, 20,000 injured, 250,000 homeless. The city is in complete devastation. Roberto locked onto the screen. The images were horrifying. A hospital had collapsed, patients inside, schools had fallen, children under rubble, homes, churches, bridges, all gone. His wife, Vera, came over. "Roberto, what happened?" Roberto couldn't answer. His eyes were filled with tears. "They're my people," he finally whispered. "Latino people, like in Puerto Rico, poor, desperate, in need of help." Vera knew her husband. "Roberto, what are you thinking?" "I have to do something." That day, Roberto took action, quickly. First, he called the Pittsburgh Pirates. "I want to start an aid campaign for Managua. I need your support." The team immediately agreed. Second, he called local TV and radio stations. "Put me on live. I'm going to address Puerto Rico. 6 p.m., Roberto was on TV. My people, my brothers and sisters. In Nicaragua, people are dying. Children are hungry. Families are homeless. They're like us, Latino, poor, powerless. But together, we are powerful. Please, whatever you can give, food, clothing, money, medicine. I will personally collect it, personally deliver it." The phone lines exploded. Thousands of calls. People wanted to help. For the next 7 days, Roberto didn't stop. He barely slept. Every day at 6 a.m., Roberto stood in front of the local radio station. People came, in their cars, in trucks, with boxes in their hands, bags, everything. One woman brought 2 blankets. "All I own, but Nicaragua needs them more." A man brought a shoebox full of money. "All my savings, $300. Please give it to the children." Roberto thanked everyone, one by one. He shook hands, he hugged, he cried. In 5 days, 26 tons of aid supplies were collected. Astonishing. But then a problem arose. December 28th, Roberto received news. The first aid planes had reached Managua, but the supplies weren't reaching the people. The Nicaraguan government, dictator Somoza's regime, was stealing the aid, selling it to the wealthy. Nothing was reaching the poor. Roberto shouted on the phone, "This is unacceptable. That aid is for people, for children." Then, determined, "Then I'm going. Personally, I'll get on a plane, and I'll distribute the supplies with my own hands. The government can't steal from me. I'm Roberto Clemente. The world is watching." Vera tried to stop her husband. "Roberto, it's dangerous. Nicaragua is still shaking. Aftershocks. The government is angry. Flights are unsafe." Then I need to go even more. December 30th, Sunday. Roberto began flight preparations, but it wasn't easy. There were no direct flights from Puerto Rico to Managua. Commercial flights were full. Holiday season. The only option, charter a private cargo plane. Roberto heard from a friend, a man named Arthur Rivera owned a DC-7 cargo plane. For rent, Roberto called Arthur. "I need to fly to Managua. I'll be carrying aid supplies. December 31st, New Year's Eve. Can you do it?" Arthur hesitated. "Mr. Clemente, that plane is very old. 1956 model. Not ideal for long distances." "Does it work?" "Yes, but then that's enough. What's the price?" Arthur named a price. Roberto accepted. Out of his own pocket, December 31st, morning. Roberto went to the airport. He saw the plane and was shocked. The DC-7 was terrible. Paint peeling, windows cracked, one engine was leaking oil. Pilot Jerry Hill came over. "Mr. Clemente, I'm going to be honest. This plane isn't safe. We did a test flight yesterday. The left engine failed. We fixed it, but there's no guarantee. How much guarantee? 70 to 80%, Roberto thought. 80% is enough. Loading began. 16 tons of supplies. But the plane's capacity was only 12 tons. Jerry protested. This is too much. The plane can't lift it. Roberto, we can lift it. We'll fly slower, lower, but we have to take it. In the afternoon, Roberto went home for the last time. He had lunch with his family. He had 3 sons, Roberto Jr., 7, Luis, 5, Ricky, 2. His wife Vera was pregnant, their 4th child, a girl. Where is Daddy going? Roberto Jr. asked. To Nicaragua. I'm taking aid to earthquake victims. When will you come back? Roberto picked up his son. Tomorrow, New Year's Day, I promise. But Vera saw something in her husband's eyes. Worry, fear. Roberto, Vera said quietly, you don't have to go. Someone else can take it. No, I have to go because I'm Roberto Clemente. If I go, the government can't steal. If someone else goes, they can. But it's dangerous. Roberto held his wife's hand. Vera, you know, I always say baseball is my job, but humanity is my duty. I must do my duty. Vera cried, but she didn't object because she knew Roberto was going no matter what. 8 p.m., Roberto returned to the airport. Final checks. Jerry Hill approached again. Mr. Clemente, please. I'm telling you one last time. This flight is too risky. The plane is overloaded. The engine is unreliable. The weather is bad. And now, something new. Juan Santana, our radio operator, is sick. An inexperienced person is replacing him. Could everything go wrong? Roberto asked. Yes. Or could everything go right? Jerry remained silent. If I don't go, Roberto continued, those children might not get help. 100% chance. If I go, there's an 80% chance we'll make it. Which is better? Jerry couldn't answer. Tomorrow's too late, Roberto said one last time. They can't wait. I can't wait. December 31st, 1972, 9 p.m. The DC-7 sat on the runway. The engines were running, loud, irregular. 5 people on the plane. 1, Jerry Hill, pilot. 2, Arthur Rivera, plane owner. 3, Rafael Delgado, co-pilot. 4, Orlando Diaz, flight engineer. 5, Roberto Clemente, passenger. Roberto climbed the stairs. He turned around. His family was there. They waved. Roberto smiled. See you tomorrow, he called out. Feliz Año Nuevo. The door closed. Inside, Roberto sat in a corner. There were no seats, just aid boxes. He sat on top of blankets. In his hand, he held a photograph, Vera and the children. He kissed it, put it in his pocket. 9 p.m., the plane moved toward the runway. Control tower. Flight 1, are you ready for takeoff? Jerry Hill, we're ready. 9:10 p.m., the plane accelerated. On the runway, faster, faster. But there was a problem. The plane was too heavy. It was struggling to reach takeoff speed. Jerry pushed the throttle all the way. The engines roared. Finally, at the end of the runway, the plane lifted off. But barely. 9:12 p.m., the plane was at 300 feet, over the ocean. Dark. Inside, Roberto looked out the window. The lights of Puerto Rico were fading away. They looked beautiful. 9:13 to 30 seconds later, a sound. An explosion. The left engine caught fire. Jerry screamed, "Engine fire! Port side!" The plane began tilting to the left. Roberto held on. What's happening? Orlando, engineer. Engine exploded, activating fire suppression system, but it didn't work. The fire grew. 9:14 p.m. alarms blared. The plane was losing altitude rapidly. Jerry to control tower. Mayday! Mayday! Flight 1, engine fire, we're going down. Control tower. Flight 1, return to nearest runway. Emergency landing. But it was too late. The plane was too heavy. One engine wasn't enough, and the fire was consuming the wing. Structural integrity was failing. 9:15 p.m., the plane at 150 feet, too low. Roberto stood up. He didn't know what to do. He just looked out the window. The ocean was approaching, fast, the last seconds. Jerry was trying to pull the controls, but it wasn't working. Arthur was screaming, "Brace! Brace!" Roberto leaned against the wall. He took out the photograph, Vera and the children. He looked one last time. "I love you," he whispered. 9:30 p.m. The plane hit the Atlantic Ocean at 300 miles per hour. Explosion, flames, then darkness. January 1st, 1973, morning. In Puerto Rico, the phone rang. Vera woke up with hope. Did Roberto come back? But the voice was different. "Mrs. Clemente, Coast Guard, we have bad news. Vera's world collapsed. Search teams began immediately. Helicopters, ships, divers. In the ocean, debris was found. The plane's wing, the pilot's seat, aid boxes, some still floating. But Roberto Clemente was not found. His body never surfaced. The search continued for 7 days. Finally, there's no hope left. The search is being terminated." Puerto Rico mourned. The entire island. Schools closed. Flags flew at half-mast. January 6th, Roberto's funeral was held, but the coffin was empty. 100,000 people came to the streets to cry. But the most striking moment, 50 refugees came from Nicaragua. Poor people. They had come with aid, Roberto's aid. One spoke, Juan Morales, a 50-year-old farmer. "Roberto Clemente never knew me. I only saw him on TV, but he died for me, to save my family." In Managua, Roberto's aid arrived, on other planes, and it saved lives. "My son is alive because of Roberto's medicine. My house was rebuilt because of Roberto's money." Juan cried, "How do I say thank you? How do I repay this debt?" At the funeral, the MLB commissioner spoke. Roberto Clemente wasn't just a baseball player. He was a hero. And from today, MLB will give the Roberto Clemente Award every year to the most humanitarian player to keep his legacy alive. That award is still given today for 51 years. But the real legacy is something else. In 1973, the UN and MLB together created a new system, Athlete Humanitarian Aid Protocol, to coordinate athletes' aid efforts to make them safe. Today, that system operates in 100-plus countries. Thousands of athletes use it. Millions benefit. And at every natural disaster, that system is activated. Clemente Protocol. 2024, Pittsburgh, Roberto Clemente Museum. On the wall hangs a piece from that DC-7 plane, recovered from the ocean, burned, damaged, but preserved. Below it, a plaque. Roberto Clemente completed his journey here, but his mission continues. December 31st, 1972, forever remembered. Every year on December 31st, a ceremony is held in Puerto Rico, on the shore, at the point closest to where Roberto's plane went down. People leave flowers, they pray, and they tell the story to the new generation. New Year's Eve, 2023, a child, 8 years old, came with his grandfather. Abuelo, who was Roberto Clemente? The grandfather gave his grandson a baseball with a signature, Roberto Clemente, reproduction. He was a baseball player, one of the best, but more importantly, he was a human being, a good human being. What did he do? The pilots told him, "Go tomorrow. Tonight is dangerous," but he said, "Tomorrow is too late. Children need help today." And what happened? The grandfather looked at the ocean. He didn't come back, but his aide did, and those children lived. And today, those children have children, and they're helping others. The child held the ball. "When I grow up, I'll help too," the grandfather smiled. That's it. That's Roberto's legacy. Roberto Clemente died on December 31st, 1972, at 38 years old, in a plane crash. His body was never found. But the aid he carried that night reached Managua. On other planes, it saved thousands of lives, and his death changed the world. MLB created the Roberto Clemente Award. The UN created athlete humanitarian protocols. Puerto Rico realized Sports City. In Roberto's name, the Baseball Hall of Fame admitted Roberto 3 months after his death. The waiting period was 5 years, but they waived it. Some people can't wait. Today, at every natural disaster, the world uses the Clemente Protocol. Athletes safely deliver aid. Roberto would ask, how is life's value measured? By the money you earn, by the championships you win. Number. By how many people you touch. He died trying to touch 10,000 people, but 50 years later, he's touching millions. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't won on the field, but in life. This story is based on Roberto Clemente's documented life in the 31st of December 1972 plane crash. Flight details are taken from NTSB reports. The Roberto Clemente Award and humanitarian protocols are real and still active today.